So I might have maybe recorded quite a few hours of mini games, of alternate game types, of just other little things from other Mega Man games. Things that I kind of skipped over previously, or I guess just didn't do. Unfortunately though, something dumb happened and all of that got corrupted. The only thing I actually have to show for it is basically this tail end of me beating the Mega Man A, or I guess Mega Man Ancient, minigame from Mega Man ZX Advent. So, yeah. But to be honest, I've kind of been toying around with this idea in my head of just doing different kinds of videos, trying different types of content and stuff. So we're gonna do a Mega Man tier list. Anyway, first up, Mega Man. The thing about this game is it had to hit the ground running. All of the other games on this were able to build up off of the previous games. They were able to improve things, they were able to grow, add new, mechanics. This game didn't have that luxury. I mean, quite literally, if this game did not do well, none of these other games would exist. So in a weird way, I don't know. I'm not sure if I could decide on where to put this, but I'm just going to leave it in the middle. Personally, I did really like this game. So yeah. Next up, Mega Man 2. So this game, I have a lot of nostalgia for, because this is one of the 4 Mega Man games I grew up playing. The others being Mega Man 8, Mega Man X, and Mega Man X4. But I am going to try and filter the nostalgia a bit. But even with that, there's one thing that this game really revolutionized, and that is the music. For Mega Man, as a series, it kind of cemented the importance of having really good music. So yeah, we're going to go and have Mega Man 2 in 8. Actually, wait a minute. I just remembered something, and I'm gonna have a moment of spite. There was that one boss, the one that was just like the laser walls, where you had to use the crash bomb to destroy them. But there was also those walls that the game would try and trick you into breaking. And if you tried to do everything, you wouldn't have enough ammo to actually beat the boss, meaning you just had to sit there and watch it kill you. And as if that wasn't bad enough, you couldn't just try it again, because Mega Man 2 doesn't replenish your energy when you die. You actually had to get a game over and restart the entirety of that stage, meaning that you didn't have to die once and just try again. You had to die 4 times, do an entire stage, all while keeping your energy full. And yeah, no, that one was a nightmare. Next up, Mega Man 3. Now this game, similar to what Mega Man 2 did with the music, or I guess the audio, Mega Man 3 did with the visuals. Yes, this game wasn't finished, and you can definitely tell in certain areas it just looks like they threw something together, but the attention to detail, the levels had so much more of a artistic design to them that kind of, themed them a bit more. I mean, Snake Man stage comes to mind, where basically the entire stage, or at least a large chunk of it, is just a lot of snakes. Not to mention, this game also added in the slide, which really gave a nice chunk of mobility. So, I'm gonna put this one at B tier as well. Next up, Mega Man 4. Now, this is the one that added in the charge shot, and I know this is kind of like a dividing thing among a lot of Mega Man fans. Some people say it was a mistake, other people loved it. Personally, I didn't mind it. The thing is, though, I really like this game. Oh yeah, not to mention, Mega Man 4 also has Toad Man. I love that guy. Next up, Mega Man 5. Now, this game, don't get me wrong, I also really liked this game, but for the most part, it was kind of just the same as Mega Man 4. And to be fair, that's not a bad thing, but there wasn't really that much that was new. You could definitely tell, though, this is where Capcom was really hitting their stride, because basically, Charge Man stage comes to mind. Basically, the big train where it actually looked like things were moving, and you got this sense that, like, you were actually in the train. This game, while it might not have added too much stuff or, like, anything revolutionary, I feel like Capcom, or at least the team working on this game, really refined a lot of things with this. So, that's also going to be A tier. Next up, Mega Man 6. This game, S tier. No question about it. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, yes, this game very clearly doesn't take itself quite as seriously as the other games, but I actually find it really charming. I mean, Dr. X, who is totally not Wily, descends from space and does all of this stuff, and you gotta go stop him. And, well, But the final boss, or I should say the final boss sequence, that's, for me at least, is where this game really shined. Because unlike most of the other games, where basically the final boss has like multiple stages that you basically fight, and then you do another stage, and then you fight, and then you do another stage, and then you fight, this game was just one after another. It was like final boss phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you're done. And the way that it flowed and just grew and evolved, there was something very, like, triumphant and just heroic, victorious feeling about it. And for me personally, it was kind of a really defining moment as I was going through the classic series. Next up, Mega Man 7. Now, this game is a little different. Basically, your character is significantly bigger on the screen, as well as just like, the general pixel count, or I guess pixel size being larger, meaning that you don't have nearly as much reaction time. So even though this is easily, without question, one of the slowest games in the series in terms of how fast things move, it feels so much more brutal. The way that I was playing this game also didn't really help. I was playing this on the Legacy Collection on Steam, and due to, I think, the emulation of like the Super Nintendo sound card, or I guess sound system, this game frequently gave me really, really miserable headaches. So I was like constantly having to stop and take breaks and stuff, and was kind of dreading jumping back into it. But once I kind of got the feel for this game down, it kind of just stopped being difficult. Actually, it was kind of a bit of a joke after a little bit. If I remember right, I'm pretty certain I took Wily down on my first try, like all of his forms. And after hearing all this stuff about just how, like, horribly difficult this game was, specifically the Wily fight, or I guess the Wily capsule fight, I was kind of disappointed, so yeah. Again, it's not a terrible game, but I feel like there was kind of a decline here. Now, next up, and I don't know which game actually came out first, Mega Man 8 and Mega Man and Bass. They both have very, very similar visual styles. Mega Man and Bass never came out in English. Or, okay, it did, but it was for the Game Boy Advance, and it was kind of an abomination because of some weird screen changes that they made. Meanwhile, Mega Man 8, similar to, I guess, 7, which jumped from the original Nintendo to the Super Nintendo, Mega Man 8 jumped from the Super Nintendo to the PlayStation, meaning that, again, there was another really big visual change. However, this time, they kind of returned to the sort of scaling of character size to screen space that was much closer to, like, the original. I feel like they did a lot better with Mega Man 8. And personally, again, even though I do have a lot of nostalgia for this game is actually pretty good. Yes, there is the jump, slide puzzle that encompasses the entire stage and is kind of beyond painful. But other than that, this game is pretty solid. I know it's kind of a bit more of a divisive game, again, because of the change in visual style and all of that. But one thing that this game did, and to be fair, I'm not sure which game came out first, Mega Man 8 or Mega Man X4, this game came out in a time where voice acting in games wasn't really a thing. So even though the voice acting in this was kind of god-awful, like so bad that it's good kind of voice acting, when you first heard the voice acting and stuff in this game, it was unheard of. Like, truly mind-blowing that games could even do that. And for that, this game kind of just has a lot of extra charm to it. At least for me, it does. And then Mega Man and Bass, I really liked this game. It had a lot of charm. I know a lot of people say that, like, it's impossible to play as Mega Man. And yes, I was playing it modded because I could jump between the two characters at will. But the thing is, I played basically the entirety of the game as Mega Man. I really only used Bass if basically, like, I died at the end of a stage and just needed to, like, catch up really quick. I brute forced damn near the entire game as Mega Man. And I didn't find it that bad. Like, yeah, there were some difficult spots, but similar to the rest of the games, it's kind of just trial and error. Try something, figure out what works, and then do that. So, I'm just gonna leave that one at A tier as well. Next up, Mega Man 9. Now, this one is another one that I feel like is very dividing when it comes to Mega Man fans. Because this game came out as I think a online purchase only for the Nintendo Wii. But the thing is, despite that, unlike basically Mega Man 8 and 7, this game returned to the visual style of the rest of the classic games. But it kind of embraced the difficulty that's associated with a lot of older games. And I know a lot of people say that this game is unfairly difficult, but to be honest, I found it more entertaining where the difficulty spikes would kick in. I mean, UFO Man stage where the gravity is flipping, and you have like those big, basically spike whatevers that you kind of had to like float through, as well as, well, a lot of just really cheap kills because a thing would just grab you and then ram you into a wall or a spike wall or, whatever. I actually found it kind of entertaining. Like I said before, to me, the difficulty in this game was more amusing, kind of like a fun callback to the actual brutality of the earlier Mega Man games. And by earlier, I mainly mean 1, 2, and 3. To be honest, I'm actually kind of debating whether to give it an A or a B, but I'm kind of thinking B. Meanwhile, Mega Man 10, while, again, another one that came out for the Wii for like a, store purchase, and it's not like better or worse, but it does also add Proto Man as like his own game type. That might have actually been one of the other things I kind of tried recording, but I'm not gonna worry about it. It's in the past. But again, these two games, they kind of just had a really cool sense of self-awareness. For the English version of basically all of these games, Mega Man was kind of always known for having really weird, bizarre, or even bad box art. Well, despite Mega Man 9 and 10 being basically digital-only downloads, Capcom kind of had the self-awareness to specifically commission really bad quote-unquote box art for these games. And again, I love the self-awareness that they had with it. Next up, Mega Man 11. So this is the newest Mega Man game to actually have been released. And again, I know this is another one that's very dividing between Mega Man fans, but I actually really liked this game. To me, this was like the best case scenario for a 3D Mega Man game. Especially, again, considering what Mega Man X7 and X8 were. But we'll get to those when we get to those. So yeah, I really like this game. I feel like the music was kind of a little weak, but I loved the character and like the little bits of backstory and other, moments like that they threw in there. And that is the Classic series. So moving on to the X series. Now again, I realize this is one of the games that I said I have a lot of nostalgia for. However, S tier, no question about it. The music in this game is just, it is godly. The controls feel amazing. Like, I think of any Mega Man game, this game probably has the best feeling gameplay. Yes, the difficulty is probably the easiest game in the entirety of the series. If anyone is actually interested in giving the Mega Man games a try, I feel like this is easily the peak of all Mega Man games. There are other really good ones, but this is the definitive game. Next up, Mega Man X2. Now this game is built on the same exact engine and everything as Mega Man X. And it does add some stuff. It is significantly more difficult, but to be honest, it's kind of just the same, but I feel like the execution is a little sloppier. Don't get me wrong, it does, I think, maybe have a more involved story. You kind of have some slightly different outcomes depending on what you do. If you played Mega Man X and wished that it was a little bit more difficult, you'd probably love this game. But at the same time, it is kind of just a lot of the same. So, yeah. I feel like the music is also just a little bit of a step down. Next is Mega Man X3. Now, in the same way that X2 is to X1, X3 is kind of the same to X2. I don't really remember any of the bosses in this game because they kind of just felt sort of bland. The fact that you could play as Zero in this is really kind of cool. Even though they kept adding stuff to it, like other ways to play the game and interact with the world, I don't know if it was entirely a good addition or I guess change, because this game to me just felt a little too convoluted in a lot of ways. The whole like armor upgrade chip thing I kind of really didn't like. So, yeah. Next up, Mega Man X4. Now, similar to what I said about the whole voice acting thing with 8, X4 is kind of the same thing. Again, I don't remember which one came out first, but this game maybe has one of the most iconic voice acting moments in the entirety of gaming.
No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
Anyway, S tier. No question about it. Next up, Mega Man X5. So, here's the thing. This game uses the visual style from X4, which, keep in mind, like 8, was a jump from the Super Nintendo to the PlayStation. Meaning that a lot of the graphics stuff kind of changed, and in X4 it worked really well. Yeah, I could see there's some weird issues because of perspective, but for the most part it was kind of consistent. In X5, the visuals are just kind of a headache and are all over the place. Some sprites look like you should be looking down at them, others look like you should be looking sideways at them, and they're all presented at the same, point of view and perspective. And it feels sloppy. As well as that, the controls, I don't know what they changed between X5 and X4, but the controls for X5 just feel horrible. And I feel like to make up for that, they made all of the bosses incredibly easy, other than, well, Shadow Devil and then the final Sigma fight, which kind of just makes those fights even worse. And yeah, this game is just a massive downgrade in almost every way from X4. Don't get me wrong, I love the story of X5, I just hate the presentation. A lot of times it felt like they just threw in dialogue for the sake of having dialogue, and they really should have just kept it short and sweet. Aside from that, I love the characters that they added. The music is really good though. Anyway, D tier. Mega Man X6. This game represents the worst of Mega Man. Anyway, I could probably go on for hours talking about all of the reasons why I do not like this game. Next up, Mega Man X7. This game, it's not terrible, even though it is kind of very bad. This game is kind of very experimental, and it's just an absolute mess. And it kind of mixes 3D and 2D platforming and stuff. But the thing is, it does have its weird charm. Actually, to be fair, the first time I got to this, I just didn't have the heart to deal with another X6. So I kind of just completely abandoned Mega Man. And if it wasn't for just basically an on-the-spot decision to attempt to revisit, or actually not even revisit, but basically visit the classic series for the first time, I never would have played another Mega Man game ever again. Mega Man X6 was just that bad. And I didn't have the heart to basically go through that again with X7. It's not that terrible. I mean, yes, again, it is really bad. But I feel like Flame Hyenard is actually kind of grown on me. And that boss fight alone made this game worth it. D tier. Mega Man X8. Now this game improved on Mega Man X7 in every way. That being said, the Ride Chaser levels are the worst thing ever. But aside from that, this game was pretty solid. I was actually considering playing through this game several times, just to unlock all of the ultimate armors and the ability to play through the game as like Alia, Layer, and Palette. Just because I think it's really cool that you can actually play as all of them. And to be honest, this game actually gave me hope that if there was a Mega Man 9, or I guess X9, it might not be absolute misery. But this game did give me hope, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in B tier. Next up, the Zero series. Now, Mega Man Zero was painfully difficult. And part of it, similar to like Mega Man 7, was because of the change in, proportion that your character took up on the screen. And while it wasn't nearly as bad as Evan, this game was significantly faster paced, which just meant the combination of the two meant this game was a nightmare. I was playing this on the Steam version, the Zero ZX collection, and I don't know how many bosses in it was, but I got to Harpuya, and that broke me to the point that I turned on the save assists, and I never looked back. But this is much more of a brutal beatdown kind of game than really any of the other Mega Man games that led up to it. The thing is, though, the curse that the X series had, where each game had to one-up the previous one in terms of stakes, the Zero series kind of rides out in a really weird way. But this game, I think I'm going to give it a B tier. I love the world, I love the... Oh, actually, no, I'm going to give it an A tier. Because again, I love the story, I love the world, the way that it just drops you into everything. This game has a lot of character. Mega Man Zero 2. This is kind of just more Mega Man Zero. But I feel like they kind of learned the lesson of the hyper difficulty. But I feel like they kind of recognized how difficult the first game was and kind of toned it back a little bit. And again, it's not so much that this game is worse than the previous game. It's kind of just a lot of the same, and it just, I don't know. To me, it felt like it kind of stagnated a little bit. Mega Man Zero 3, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't care for the majority of this game. And maybe I'm being a little biased because when I was recording this, I lost, I think, like 3 boss fights worth of footage. And because I didn't quite know how to go about doing whatever, I kind of just abandoned this game for a couple months. Before I just realized that, oh yeah, I could just, say that, hey, I lost this footage, I don't need to replay through the entire game. Just try and get that footage back, or, re-record it or whatever. But once I got to the end game of this game, I actually really, really liked this game. The whole, Omega thing was actually really, really cool. So I'm going to give this game B tier. You know what? You guys don't exactly need to see the I don't think you guys need to see the next game, because I'm sure you could probably guess. If you can't, I'm sorry, but I'm about to completely wreck your world. But 4 comes after 3. But yeah, Mega Man Zero 4, this game, it really stood out. Yes, this game is significantly easier for the most part, up until you fight Kraft. For me, that was without question the hardest fight in this game. Potentially even in all of the Zero series. But the ending of Zero 4, that is something that has emotionally scarred me, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm still not over, and it has been over a year at this point. And just because of that, the finality of it, the way that the ending fight is presented, and just, God, the music. The back and forth between Weil and Zero, along with Zero's whole "I'm not a hero" speech. Oh God, it's so good. And then again, the way that this game just rips your heart out and just throws it in a blender. This just S tier. I love this game. While I would highly recommend playing it, I don't feel like you'd quite get the same payoff if you didn't play through at least Zero 1. Zero 2 and 3 would, add to it. But if you're just playing Zero 4 on its own, it's not going to hit nearly as hard. But at the same time, it's good. I don't even know what to say about it other than what I've already said. Next up, Mega Man ZX. So this is a game that kind of breaks the curse that the X series set upon the Mega Man series, where every game had to escalate and have basically a one-up on the previous game in terms of, the stakes and, just how dire everything was. This game really reset everything. I mean, yes, there was some, super dire stuff in it and some very heavy implications and stuff, but this game did a really, really good job at kind of stepping back from everything. It doesn't retcon anything. It doesn't try and be anything other than just what it is. But I feel like what it does incredibly well. So, S tier. I really, really liked the ZX series. And then Mega Man ZX Advent. Again, this game, it kind of ups the stakes a little bit, but kind of in a different way from ZX. However, that being said, I feel like it is just a slight stagnation from the first one, even though I think personally I might have liked it a little bit better otherwise. I mean, who could possibly overlook or forget such important details that is the story of Ash seeking the booty? Clearly, no game has the depth that ZX Advent had. Not to mention, ZX Advent and ZX actually had some surprisingly good music. I was not expecting to enjoy either of these nearly as much as I did. Oh, wait, I haven't actually played this one. The Misadventures of Trombone? I have this game because I actually got it at the same time that I basically got Mega Man Legends because they were being sold together. But I kind of decided not to play this one because someone told me it was like a bunch of mini games. But I've also read that it has story, so you know what? Maybe I'll play through that. Let's just leave the Misadventures of Trombone as unranked because, again, I haven't played it. Which means Mega Man Legends. This game is very different, but it feels like home, if that makes any sense. Yes, it is a fully 3D game, and it's more of a dungeon crawler than it is a platformer like the other Mega Man games. But there's something about the world and the characters and the way that everything is presented that has such a massive charm to it. I mean, hell, the pirates, the Bonds, they grew on me to the point where I cared just as much about them, despite the fact that they were quite literally constantly trying to kill me. They kind of grew on me to the point where I cared just as much about them as I did the good guys, the main characters. Actually, I guess in a way they were kind of main characters. But I was actually very pleasantly surprised. It is a very different kind of game, though. But then Mega Man Legends 2. S tier. It's just more of Mega Man Legends, but it feels like you have so much more of a wider world to go explore and experience. In fact, I would say the only downside about this game, and this is purely because of when I played it, is that I knew that Mega Man Legends 3 had already been canceled years ago, meaning I knew that this was it. And that just made the ending hurt so much more. God, I would love a Mega Man Legends 3 so much after playing these two games. I mean, hell, even the same with like Mega Man ZX and ZX Advent. There was supposed to be another game, but again, they just decided that, nah, we're not going to do it. Although to be fair, those games didn't quite leave off on nearly as much of a cliffhanger as Mega Man Legends 2, so I feel like it is a little bit more forgivable in their cases. Anyway, I think that is all of the Mega Man games. Or at least all of the ones that I've played. Actually, wait, no, there is one that isn't listed here, and that is Command Mission. And to be honest, it's kind of more of like a Final Fantasy style JRPG, but like with Mega Man characters. And unfortunately, it's not that good. It kind of gets incredibly grindy really quick, and fights just take forever, and not in a good way. Honestly, I'd probably put it down at E tier if it was on here. Actually, no, it's not at X6's level of terribleness. I'd put it at D tier. But yeah, I guess that's my Mega Man tier list. Actually, one thing I want to do is, what is the community ranks? I don't think I'm going to check everything, but let's at least check our S tiers and see how that stacks up to everybody else's. Okay, so first S tier, Mega Man X, absolutely. Mega Man X4, absolutely. X2, no. I mean, it's good, but not that good. Mega Man 2, if I was going to let myself be blinded by nostalgia, I would have put this at S tier. Mega Man 7, no. As simple as that. Mega Man 6, I put that in S tier. A tier, you know, I could definitely see that. It is a very easy game, so if you're kind of playing these for the difficulty, then yeah, I could definitely see that. ZX is B tier? Yeah, I could see that. Again, it is a very different tone. So if you're kind of a fan of the X series like I was, or even the Zero series, this game would feel like a massive step back. Or at least the beginning of it would. This game does have its moments where it gets really dark. Mega Man Legends is D tier? Oh god, and Legends 2 is E tier? But yeah, anyway, that was Mega Man tier list. There is a very good chance that this will be the only thing I end up uploading this week, because again, I don't have the time to record a bunch more stuff.